Good day. Before we continue with this video, I'd like you to just press the like button so that we can get the algorithm going as we start. I want to start with two questions. What will the Russians do if President Trump accedes to President Zelensky's desire for the Tomahawk missiles and he ends up using it, possibly in attacking political targets or even military targets deep within Russia? The second question is, what should he do? That's your own opinion. That opinion I would like a lot in the comment section after this video. So, President Zelensky has been asking for, and he's been parroting the fact that he wants Tomahawk missiles. Tomahawk missiles, he believes, are a game changer because it will be able to get him targets within Russia, deep within Russia, targets that he believes will bring pain to the Russians and ultimately make the Russians come to the negotiating table and possibly also sue for a ceasefire. President Zelensky has a conviction that that is going to work. We should know that President Zelensky has had quite a lot of belief in some weapon systems that will do a lot of good for the Ukrainians in the course of this war. We've heard about the Leopard tanks, the Abrams tanks, the F-16s, the Attack-on missiles. We've heard also about the one given to him by the British, the Scalp given by the French. There's been no end. Storm Shadow. There's been no end to weapon systems that are supposed to have ended this war long ago. We've heard his unending and continuous refrain that Patriot missiles will keep the Ukrainian sky safe. I can tell you at this point in time, there almost are no Patriot missiles in Ukraine anymore. The Russians have wiped out almost all the batteries. Now they are scouring the whole of Europe. And who has come to the help of the Ukrainians? It's the Israelis who have promised them 8 batteries, old Patriot missile batteries, and now they are getting them. They already have 2 in Ukraine. The Tomahawk missiles may just be a bridge too far. That is what the Belarusian president, Lukashenko, actually thinks. A lot of other people think so too. As regards to the Russians, they are keeping their intent and their next move close to their chest. But we know what Medvedev had also said. Good day and welcome to my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any opinions regarding the views I express in this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. President Zelensky has identified the Tomahawk missile as the one missile system that can save the Ukrainians and get them to turn the tide in the war. He believes very seriously on it. And he had been told by President Trump that he will look into it. President Trump has invited him. And President Trump knows clearly that the Tomahawk missile is going to be the #1 priority that Zelensky will be asking of him. In this, while talking with his cabinet, this is what President Trump had to say.
Should have never let that happen. That's a war that should have never happened, but it did. But it's not making Russia look good, I will tell you that.
We need Tomahawks in Ukraine?
We'll be talking about Ukraine, yeah. I mean, I have the president coming in on Friday, and I know what he has to say. He wants weapons. He would like to have Tomahawks. Everyone else wants Tomahawks. And we have a lot of Tomahawks. Tomahawk is do you need any Tomahawks in Argentina?
You can cross Moscow, Tomahawks.
You need them for your opposition, I guess, because see, in this country, they'd use Tomahawks for the opposition. I don't do that. I'm much nicer. The Democrats would use them if they had the chance. They're sick people. Go ahead.
So President Trump recognizes that Zelensky wants the Tomahawks. He has already said, while this issue has been going on for a week now, and he says that he'll write to know more about what Zelensky and what target Zelensky is hoping to use the Tomahawks with. The way President Trump operates now is that he doesn't hand over our American weaponry directly to the Ukrainians. What he does, rather, is that it sends it off to NATO or the European countries. There's a system they call PURL, Pearl. And that Pearl system is the means by which NATO members buy weaponry, hand to NATO and give it to the Ukrainians. And that is a method by which they are going to hopefully send the Tomahawk missiles to. Knowledgeable military experts have always said that the Tomahawk missiles have three methods of delivery: sea, air, and land. Since the Ukrainians will not have the ability to deploy it by sea, they don't have the ability also to deploy it by the air because they would require American F-16s, obviously, or American planes that particularly do that. And that would mean that America possibly would be accused of being part of the war. So they may have to use land system. The land system is the one that there's a lot of experimental methods of delivery, but we really don't know how it's going to be done eventually. But somehow, all the Europeans believe so much in it. And the Russians don't seem bothered about it. Peskov was saying that it will not change anything, but it will change the relationship between America and Russia. Dmitry Medvedev has actually come out very, very strongly and said it will change. In fact, he used disparaging words. He has been the hawk in the cabinet, the deputy chair of the Russian Security Council. He said he had some very strong words on Trump if Trump does allow that, because Trump has been using words that you can imply as being threats. Because when he was asked, will you give the Tomahawk missiles? He said, well, if this war is intended by the Russians, he may consider giving it to the Ukrainians. That means, but he recognizes that it's very escalatory. He knows that it will be a new relationship between the Russians and the Americans. So the question is, what will Russia do? Well, if you ask Mark Rutte doesn't believe that the Russians can do anything about it. He believes very strongly that NATO can defeat the Russians. He believes it. He believes that NATO is much bigger, much more robust in their they have 32 people in their alliance. So he believes that they can defeat the Russians decisively. When asked if the Russians get into the airspace of NATO, this is what Mark Rutte had to say about a possible scenario like that.
For example, China would move against Taiwan, it's highly likely that China will force the junior partner in that relationship, being Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, to move against NATO here, to keep us busy. For all these reasons, we have to make sure that we work as strongly together with them. And then on the hybrid threats, this is, of course, a big worry, and we are working on it. For example, China would move against Taiwan.
So this is the one where he was disparaging the Russians and calling them the junior partner to the Chinese. Well, I won't blame him. The Russians too have been calling Europeans and members of NATO vassals of America, and indeed they are vassals, if you ask me. That's my own personal opinion. They use American weaponry. They have no independence in any of the systems that are there. All the weaponry that give them strength is American. And it's only at the behest and the say-so of America that they can use those weapon systems anyway. But he does believe that NATO can decisively deal with the Russians. The question, the part of the video I was hoping to get was the one where he was asked if NATO planes can be shot down. And he said because NATO is very strong and very powerful, that they don't need to shoot down the Russian planes. They will escort it if it gets into any airspace of the Russians. Medvedev had warned clearly that any shooting down of Russian planes will lead to war. I don't think they want that. But another person too is very, very dismissive of the Russians is Ben Hodges. Ben Hodges was a very big, I think he was the commander of one of the commands of America, And he has been a very big hawk on this war. He believes so much about the victory of the Ukrainians. He believes the Ukrainians are doing very well. If you wake Benjo Hodges now and ask him, how has the war gone in the past 3 years? He will tell you Ukraine has practically gotten into Moscow. So he said something very, very decisive today, very escalatory. He said if Russia attacks NATO, Kaliningrad and Sevastopol will be annihilated. In the event of a direct confrontation with Russia, NATO would wipe out Kaliningrad and Sevastopol within the first few hours, said the former U.S. Army Europe commander Ben Hodges. If Russia attacked Poland in 2025, the same way it attacked Ukraine, NATO's air and ground forces will destroy it. I'd like to get the opinion of some of the viewers and subscribers of this video. Yeah. What do you think? You think Ben Hodges is real, or is he? I really don't know what to say. Some people feel is delusional. Some people feel statements like this may lead us into a war, because one of the things that is a certainty, a war between Russia and NATO has a high probability, very high probability of going nuclear. The weaponry, conventional weaponry available to the Russians is just not available to most of NATO now, especially missile technology, where new missile systems are completely not in the arsenal of NATO, at least not in the American part of it. Hypersonic missiles, we've seen them used very effectively in this war here. And we see how the Russians have moved from using these very expensive weapon systems. They are accumulating them. They seem to know that a war is coming with NATO someday, and they are getting prepared. So what is their weapons of choice now over Ukraine? The Garand 2 and Garand 3 drones. These are cheap knockoffs that do the same thing. And we got to see the effect of these swarms of Garand 2 and Garand 3 drones all over Ukraine recently. Today, Kyiv just went into darkness. Kyiv going into darkness has nothing to do with the fact that they were bombed. They have not been bombed in recent times. But the resilience of their power grid was tested. And somehow, there was a system collapse. If you are from countries within the African region or some Latin American regions, you will know the word system collapse. It just means the system collapsed, the grid collapsed. The grid collapsed in Kyiv, and there was darkness in Kyiv. Repeated assault over several days by Garand 2, Garand 3, and all the suites of drones that the Russians have been using to attack the energy system in Ukraine has compromised that energy system. But while everybody is believing that they can go ahead and do what they want to do and Russia will not be able to do anything about it, that's not the belief of the Belarusian president. Lukashenko said very clearly, while talking to some world leaders, he was talking today in Minsk, he says Tomahawk will escalate the conflict in Ukraine to a nuclear war. He believes that Tomahawk will not solve the problem. It will only just escalate the situation to a nuclear war. And it says that probably Donald Trump understands this better than anyone, as he is not in a hurry to provide deadly weapons and allow the strike deep into Russia, as President Zelensky hopes. I have always said it that President Trump has become duplicitous. He leans to this and he leans to that person. And in the Ukraine matter now, he has two camps, that led by General Kit Kellogg and the neocons, where you find Richard Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham. But he also has one who has been closer to him and quite effective too, especially coming off the victories in Gaza, and that's Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff had formed a very good relationship with Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian head of the economic team there. And together, both of them are working very closely with Putin. So these two teams, this is how Trump has been carrying on in his new government. He has two teams. Even in the Venezuelan case, then he has Grenell, and then he has the Marco Rubio. One is hawkish, one seeks for peace. The Steve Witkoff methodology is one that sometimes loses the presence and the face and the energy, but ultimately is the one that President Trump has gone with, at least with the Gaza case. And while he says all these harsh things against Russia, tells them that Russia is not doing well, Vladimir is not, has surprised him, Vladimir has disappointed him, Vladimir Putin has done, he says all these things. But for those who know, the back channels continue to be open. And it is for that reason why Yuri Ushakov, very close aide to President Putin, says that actions in Alaska, the spirit of the Alaska meeting is still well and alive. There are still a lot of back channel meetings going on. And when Putin is asked about all the vituperations of President Trump, he doesn't seem bothered. He just laughs it off. He seems relaxed about it. He's even very magnanimous towards Trump. Supported the Gaza peace deal, said so many nice things about him regarding his not being given the Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. He has just maintained a very good spirit with President Putin, with President Trump, not antagonizing him, not saying any nasty thing about him. So this is where we are. President Zelensky is going to be visiting America. He will ask for the Tomahawk. If you ask me, he won't get it. But I would like to get your own opinion. The multipolar world is here with us. All that has been happening regarding China, we have been saying. But just as we know that this world was changed when first the Suez Canal was built, and then two, the Panama Canal was built. These are trade routes. These are trade routes that changed the world significantly, changed trade, and made things move very fast in the world, facilitated the world. We just heard how Rutte was casting aspersions to Russia and China in their relationship. I should say that that relationship is very profitable. When two countries trade, and the trade between them is done between their currencies, one, and that trade grows to the point of almost $250 billion, and possibly this year may even reach $300 billion. When the trade is, one gets products, it's well balanced, because trading with China is a problem for every country, because almost no country can balance their trade with China. But when Russia trades with China, the trade is nearly balanced, because one, the Russians give technology products. We should not forget that Russia still sells a lot of technology products to the Chinese. Airplane engines, nuclear technology. The Chinese are still preeminent in nuclear technology, but the Russians have been there. They know this thing much better. But we know them more for their carbohydrate trade. And that trade is it's growing. The Siberia 2 and Siberia 1, power of Siberia 1 and power of Siberia 2. The power of Siberia 1, 50,000 cubic feet, 40,000 cubic feet of gas already there, being delivered. And the power of Siberia 2, it's a very extensive trade. But today something very monumental happened. A new form of cooperation that shocked the world. A ship a British ship used what we call the Northern Sea Route. The Northern Sea Route passes the Arctic, and this is a route that now creates access to Russian goods and Chinese goods within a shorter space of time. The first container transit from China to Europe arrived in just 20 days, twice as fast as the traditional route. Putin's envoy, the one I'd already talked about, Kirill Dmitriev, was the one who announced this. And this is a route, as you can see, it skirts the whole side of the Arctic, very close to. And how is this possible? One, a lot of people say global warming has made the Arctic there less thick. But most importantly is the fact that the Russians have technology that no other country has. Nuclear-powered icebreakers. Those nuclear-powered icebreakers is how they've used to force the issue and create this new route that is now giving them access and will facilitate trade between Europe. The Chinese and the Euro and the are the partners of the Russians in this particular endeavor. And this is one thing that is making a lot of countries worried. So today they had this first trade. It came, I think, about 2 days ago. It arrived at a British port, Felixstowe, and it signified a lot of progress in that. I equated it to the Panama Canal and the impact and the Suez Canal. This is a possibility that is going to change the world and deepen the Belt and Road Initiative that that China has been very strong in using some of the surplus of their trade, over $1 trillion of surplus. They use it for this kind of endeavors, improve port facilities all over the world, and improve access to trade, and improve their soft power with so many countries, 125 or 128 countries, depending on what statistic you're looking at. But that's what gives China the kind of advantage they now have. And they are doing this in conjunction with the Russians, because definitely China is not an Arctic country, but the Russians call them a near Arctic country, and the Russians give them access to they are developing fields there too, gas fields. They're developing projects together. And despite the sanctions placed on them by the Americans, they're showing us that there's a new route the Chinese are making sure they are becoming resilient. It's an alternative for them. They already are using rail to do the China-Europe rail track. They're passing through Central Asian countries, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. They were supposed to be passing through Poland, and Poland, because of the war, because of the training Zapad 25, when the Poles closed their border during Zapad 25 military exercise that the Russians did with the Belarusians, they closed their border with Belarus and blocked Chinese trains. And for over 3 weeks, they blocked Chinese trains. So the Chinese have come to look at them as not reliable. The Chinese look at this new Northern Sea route as being very viable. Not only that, they are now opening up other routes in Central Asian states, and they are actively going to bypass Poland, who is a very strong belligerent member of NATO and who views China and Russia's relationship as inimical to their trade. Most Eastern European countries are looking for Chinese investment, but we're seeing that all this is changing. Maybe just as an aside, two major stories too that also showed some signs about the geopolitics. One, Iran started to fly their flag completely by themselves now, put on their transponders on their sea super tankers, the ones that carry their oil to China, and they have made it very open. It used to be a kind of like a sealed thing. They will put off their transponders and use the flags of other countries. Now they're flying the Iranian flag, and they dare any country to come and try to stop them. This is the age of the multipolar world. This is the age of powers like Iran, powers like North Korea, powers like China. And this is the age when the West's power is waning. The final geopolitical story I may just want to talk about is the one that has to do with maybe I should just leave it there. We can just talk more about other things later. But that one about Iran is very important, which shows that Iran can now do what they need to do. They're out there and they're telling the world that we are here. You can't do us anything anymore. We're not running under any shadow anymore. We are now free, and we are part of the new reality. We're in BRICS. We're in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We are with the Russians, and we are with the Chinese. And this is the new reality now. If you try to harm us, we will come at you forcefully. That was the statement that was being made today by the Iranians. Anyway, this is where I end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to like and share. And if you have any comments regarding the video, please put it in the comment section, especially what you think Russia should do or what you think Russia will do. This is where I end my video for today. You have a good day. Goodbye.